Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to take a look at the Vosteed Raccoon. This is not obviously a new knife. I think these have been out in different variations for over a year now. Certainly have been reviewed by a lot of channels. However, this is new to me. Vosteed was kind enough to send me one for a review. This is kind of like their new Rockstar action. So first of all, thanks to Vosteed for sending that for review. I do appreciate it. Hopefully y'all have seen enough of my videos now. You'll know I'm going to give it to you pretty straight, regardless of whether I get a knife at no cost for review or not. However, this one's going to be pretty easy, and I think y'all can already see that this is becoming like their version of the CJRB Pyrite. It's just like, this is the Rockstar model that everybody wants. We're going to give it to you in a billion different handle styles and types and materials and different blade shapes and different lock mechanisms. We're putting this thing out in all kinds of variations. They have like a Bowie clip point type Bowie blade. They have a cool looking new one, is a sheep's foot looking blade. They call it a cleaver is the name that they call it, but it's a traditional sheep's foot blade. They have mini raccoons now, like they do with almost all of them. This is obviously the crossbar lock. They have them now in the top liner lock versions, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see maybe a Vanker lock version and maybe even a higher steel in the not too distant future. I don't know anything. I don't have any inside baseball on that at all. That's just me guessing, but that seems to be the trajectory this thing is following. You know, I said this on another video as well. If y'all been following the affordable EDC knife category for any length of time, then you are going to know traditionally the biggest players are like 𝗍𝗍𝗯𝗃 and Sencut. They've been around the longest, and they put out just, you know, model after model after model. And CJRB has come on strong with their Pyrite line of stuff too. But I'm going to tell y'all what, and I know a lot of y'all have already agreed on this in the comments, but I'd love to hear what the rest of you think as well. Vosteed in the last 6 months has been putting out model after model after model of just some total bangers. Like, these guys are now in the affordable budget line. These guys, to me, are the ones to beat. This is what I call like the luxury affordable line of knives. You know, if you handed someone, and I love the Pyrite, everybody loves the Pyrite, I'm not really knocking them, but if you handed somebody this Pyrite knife with, you know, kind of its plastic handles and steel liners, and you handed them this one in the micarta with the steel liners and this blade here, and said, which one of these would you want to carry at work all day long? You know, that's a pretty easy debate. Now, that's a silly debate because this knife costs half of what this knife costs. But still, we're talking about $30 difference, you know, $30 to $60. That's not chump change. I'm not knocking that as that's a nothing burger at all. But man, I would definitely rather carry this one all day long. So they've got a designer over there. His name is 𝗚𝗚𝗃, and I will put that on the screen just so we're all clear on what I'm saying here. And 𝗚 has been with Vosteed, I think, since the beginning. You know, Vosteed only started really producing and selling knives in 2021. To me, it feels like they've just been in this group forever. But it's a pretty relatively new company, and these guys are really now hitting their stride. Well, 𝗚 over there, 𝗚𝗚𝗃, 𝗚𝗚𝗃, is actually a graduate University of Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Sooners. And even in college, he had the access to the materials and the computer equipment and the manufacturing equipment even to start producing and designing knives. And so that got him, I guess, landed a nice job there at Vosteed. Let me tell you about some of the knives that this guy has put out over, you know, the last year or so. So he is responsible for what I think is just one of the best EDC knives easily of 2025, and we're just getting started. The Porcupine, fantastic knife. I just did a review on the Corgi. This comes in all different shapes, sizes, blades, and handle types too. But here's some other names that you might recognize. How about the Martin, or the Schillen Cutter, or the Nightshade, the Acorn, the Hedgehog? All of those knives and a whole bunch more are all designed by this same guy, 𝗚. But he doesn't just design knives, he also designs the locks as well. So he's the guy who designed the Vanker lock, their new kind of push-button pivot lock on there. He also designed the Trek lock, which is, I just did a video on this. The Corgi inside here, it's a button push lock. It's like a compression button lock. Nope, let me back that up. It's not a compression style lock. So there are new top liner lock, compression lock types. This is a plunger style lock, but it's all inside the blade tang. So this is a new variation called the Trek lock, T-R-E-K. And this comes on this knife and the Thunderbird, and it may be on others as well. So my point here is this guy is, in my book, one of the designing wizards of the knife industry right now. He is absolutely a rock star with all those designs and the locks under his belt. So Vosteed is just absolutely killing it. And I think the Raccoon, as I mentioned, is Vosteed's version of the Pyrite. It's just, this is the model everybody loves, and they're going to bang it out in every imaginable handle, style, shape, material, different lock types, different blade types. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper on this thing right here and now. Before we get started, if you would, down below here, as always, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell. That really helps little guys like me get found on the YouTubes. Throw me a thumbs up if you think I did okay. If you got to leave early, throw me a thumbs up. That really helps also the channel. You know, it just helps me get found a little bit more across the YouTube. So thanks so much for doing that. I appreciate it. I always like to start out by taking a look at the box. Pretty standard fare for boxes. I got a pretty cool new sticker. I don't know if it's really new because this knife isn't new. It's about a year old. But I do like the Wanted Dead or Alive Raccoon sticker. I thought that was awfully cool. It does come also with the warranty paperwork and a business card there in the box. Typical fare for what most of these EDCs come from Vosteed. I do like the fact that they've got the old Velcro sticker on there, and they sent you a second pack of springs. How about that? That's awfully cool. This is their, obviously, crossbar lock / Omega spring. So you got a backup pair as well as your cleaning cloth and just the good old plastic that these things come in. So that's what you get in the box. That's awfully cool, especially to have that second set of springs. That's probably a smart move on their part, although I have not heard anybody that I know of, I'm sure it must have happened, but nobody I know of has ever even busted their springs. Y'all let me know down in the comments if y'all have busted a set of Omega springs. I'm willing to bet, as long as, you know, Benchmade's been doing it, there's probably, I know for a fact, there's been a lot of people over the years have broken Benchmade springs. So there you go. That's that. Let's do some size comps real quick here. This is what I'm going to call like almost a perfect medium-sized EDC style knife. You've got the PM2 and the Para 3. You can see it fits nicely in between both of those in terms of size. A little more modern comparisons. I always like to do the Civivi Vision FG and the Pyrite Light like we have talked about. This is going to be obviously a direct competitor to the Pyrite Light. They have knocked it out. It's easier sometimes when I hold them this way. These knives are, you can't see that. Let me get it back on screen. I'm not holding them evenly. These knives are basically almost the exact same size. So this is clearly their attempt, and a very successful one at that, at going after that Pyrite line. Maybe a couple of other Vosteeds. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, the Porcupine, which is still, I think, got to be one of my favorites, as well as the Corgi, which is new to me and pretty darn cool. Definitely sits in a different place in your lineup, but still something you want to have in the collection probably. It's a little bit longer than both of these, right? So this is a little bit more of a serious kind of work duty knife. All right. Where did we go here? I lost my place on my notes. So solid in the hand. Oh, specs. That's where we wanted to go. Let me pull up some specs because you always want to see that. So bring those up down the side of the screen here. Full open, a little over 7.5, 7.6 inches, 3.25 on the total blade length, but you're really at a 3-inch, right at 3-inch cutting length. In the closed position, 4.36 inches. The blade thickness, according to the specs online, say 0.125. However, I measured these 10 times with my calipers and come up at 0.118. So mine came in a little bit thinner than, I guess, spec, and that's perfectly cool with me. I'd rather have it. This is, to me, is the perfect thickness for my EDC yet / good work knife. Handle thickness is just a hair under ½ an inch. For all intents and purposes, it's a ½ inch. Probably already noticed, we already said this is a satin finished, although I gotta say this is like a polished satin finish. Let me see if I can zoom in a little better. You know, I'm used to, in a satin finish, seeing more of the grind lines, and you can clearly see them when you hit the light right. but it still looks and feels like it's been polished on top of that. So really nicely done on the blade finish on this thing. Micarta handles, we'll talk about those more in a minute. I love them, 14C28, and fantastic budget steel. 60 plus or minus 2 on the 𝗟𝗃. I'm going to guess the uncoated ones are going to go more towards the higher end of that range. I've seen other places where they say it's 60 to 62, but when you put 60 plus or minus 2 on your website, that means it could go down to a 58, and that would not be a good thing for this 14C. We've seen other blades from pretty well-known manufacturers really take that low end. I tested one actually in my cut test, and it did horribly, one of the worst performers of the bunch. So you don't want a very soft 14C. I'm going to say this is probably likely in the 60, 61 range. That's where most of them are going to fall. The weight is listed at 3.04 ounces. I put mine on my scales, 3.13, a little bit heavier, no big deal there. This is the crossbar lock, which is, like Benchmade's Axis lock. This is adjustable. We'll take a look at that in a minute as well. The designer we talked about, 𝗏𝗚, fantastic dude. He's a rock star in my opinion. The price on these things is $59. I will put a link down below. You can find a whole bunch of these things on Amazon. So if you use that link, it does help me out. That's an affiliate link, and I sure do appreciate it. I measured the blade edge on this thing. We'll talk about that as well. Very small, tiny grind line on this. So I thought, wow, that's got to be like a 24 degree, and it very well could be. However, measuring it behind the edge, just behind where that grind line ends, 13 thousandths, one of the most slicey blades I've ever seen come from a factory, and especially at this price point. It does thicken out a little bit as you get towards the tip to an 18 thousandths. But man, that is a beautifully well done slicey blade. Solid in the hand. Crossbar lock, everybody knows it is ambidextrous. It is tough as nails. No issues there. This is a knife feels really confident in. You feel confident with this in your hand. It's solid. Those steel liners just give it even more strength and solidity. Just the right amount of weight. Just in all kinds of positions. In the closed position, I thought this was worth pointing out because this is also part of the story of how Vosteed is doing things. The angles are not lost on me in the closed position. You can see that the angle of the blade matches perfectly here with the scales and where it comes down here as well. Those lines are engineered intentionally to make not only a really functional, but a beautiful design. So I like to look at all the pieces on there, right? Very cool. I love this micarta. This is the grippy kind of micarta. Some people will say this is like the lower quality micarta. I'm going to compare it to the micarta that you'll find on, say, their porcupine, which is, another Vosteed knife and one that I've mentioned a few times already. Look how smooth this is. This is very thoroughly sanded, polished, almost slick, and it is actually just a little bit slick. Now, they do have a lot of jimping, but this micarta is very slick compared to this. This is the grippy stuff, and for a good hard-use work knife, which is what I think this is, I want this grippy version all day long. I love micarta. A lot of people don't like it as much. It doesn't get cold in the winter. It stays grippy, whether it's wet or dry. It's soft to the touch. Just a lot of really nice, and I like the way it weathers in, it wears in, it patinas. The oils of your hand will get into it. You can certainly clean it, bring it back to fresh, no problem there. Nested steel liners, you probably have seen, or maybe you haven't inside. You can see that both the top and the bottom have these big holes punched in them for weight reduction. So that's a pretty cool thing there. What else we got? Hardware. This is a weird one. So T8s on the front, all these. So the crossbar studs, the thumb studs, and the pivot screw, T8s. Back here, T6s for the pocket clip and obviously the insert, as well as this back end of the scales, which holds with that, which I believe, nope, that is micarta also. Nice micarta back spacer insert. Don't know why. That's one of the things that we'll nitpick against these guys. We always beat knife companies up for using T6s. They easily could have used a T8, at least in that screw, if not also in the pocket screws. I believe there may also be some T6s in the inside once you get to the inside. All right. We talked about we didn't talk yet about the pocket clip. So Vosteed, to me, does an excellent, excellent pocket clip. It is nice and plenty deep. That's going to go into just about any pocket. The bill is the right height of just enough to actually lift up and clear the pocket, but not so much that it's going to hurt or be pokey in hard use tests. I'm definitely going to put this through the cut test, so we'll find that out for sure. It has the right amount of tension on it. Just a really well done all the way around pocket clip. Why couldn't they have moved it a quarter of an inch higher up on these scales? I don't know. I don't understand that. There's no reason I can think of that they couldn't have just moved this back to the top and made it full deep carry. That being said, I don't care. That doesn't make any difference to me, and probably doesn't make much of a difference to a whole lot of other people as well. But all that being said, it is obviously reversible, and it's a good pocket clip. The pivot screw is captive. It is a captive. You can see there's no screw on this side. I do want to show you a little bit of the detail. Let me get on up close into this thing. Look how they cut this pivot screw. The captive side and the screw side are all cut like that. So little attention to details like this is, I don't overlook this. I don't miss that. Similarly, the thumb studs are perfect. They're the perfect height, but the cut on these is sharp enough that you're not going to miss that thumb stud. When you go to grab it, it is extremely grippy. In the same exact way, the crossbar lock studs are also equally just as grippy. Not painful in any way, but just the perfect amount of height, shape, grippiness, etc. But even small little details like those pivot screws don't go unnoticed. Again, this is why I call these like the affordable luxury line of knives, in my opinion. I know a lot of people laugh at that, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care. Great details. Stop pins are pretty standard fare. You've got this one at the top here with a little bit of blade shouldering on that. When it comes back around to close, it is the crossbar lock that is catching the bottom side of that blade, and it's catching it all the way back down in here. So because they've got this forward finger choil, outstanding sharpening choil as well, and you got a lot of sharpening. So this thing, being a 14C, a hard use work knife, could be sharpened more than your average knife might be sharpened. Certainly, you can stick it on a strop at the end of the day and get this thing back to hair whittling sharp. 14C is certainly known for being easy to sharpen, and that's a great thing. But you could also sharpen this thing a good number of times because of that finger / sharpening choil. So well done on that. Lockup on this thing is solid. Actually, it's a little loose right now, I think, because I have taken it apart. I took it apart, and I'm going to show you some inside. Yeah, that screw is very loose. I can't quite get the centering right either. I will tell you, let's see, did I get... Yeah, so we're now solid. There's no blade play on that, up, down, left, right. No pivot lash there. There's no detent. There's no detent ball, obviously, because it's a crossbar lock. The crossbar lock acts as the detent. I will tell you, that is a strong detent. This is on the medium setting right in the middle. I'll bring up an overlay here on the screen showing you just the inside where you can see how easy it is to actually get to the springs. And, just a pair of needle nose pliers or something, you can move them out of one slot into the other to make them stronger or weaker. I'll tell you, the strength of the medium is what I would consider pretty darn strong. Some people like them really strong. That's why they make them. I don't know that I would want it any stronger. Certainly for me, I would almost go one step weaker. But that being said, again, this is not like the knife I want to sit at my desk and fidget with. This is a hard use work knife for me. This is the budget, good, hard use. I know I'm going to a job where I'm going to do a lot of cutting, whether it's boxes, it's packaging, it's tape, it's shrink wrap, it's packaging. I don't know. But if I'm going to do a lot of cutting at work, this is the knife I want to take. And because of that, I don't know that I really want to change those springs. I want them to be pretty stiff. I mean, I'm going to be doing some hard use. I don't mind being able to flip this thing and letting it sit like that. And I don't know why it's bouncing on me like this right now. You can see the blade is off center. So I've got to really just do some work. It's because I've taken it apart and I've got the pivot back in there, not quite in the right position. This thing, I definitely can get more well centered, but there you go. This is the real deal, real world of this thing, right? All right, talked about that. This is not a wimpy knife. This is a crossbar lock. You are not going to break that at all, no matter how hard you whack on it, right? No problems there. That's why we like the crossbar locks. 14C28N, Larry Thomas, Knife Steel Nerd. So this is one of the best budget steels you can get. Very minimal branding. You can see they put the name just right there, barely visible. I love that. Nice job, Vosteed. Everybody has been saying this to these companies forever, and Vosteed keeps listening. That's one of the things that amazes me about these guys, is that they're listening, even from knife to knife. So I just did a review on this Corgi, which came out before the Raccoon did. I'm pretty sure about that, and I'm willing to bet people said, you don't really need to put your name quite so visible right there on the blade. So they did. They backed it down and made it less visible. You don't really need to put the name of the model on the blade, so they don't do that anymore. And we like having the blade steel a little more visible, usually right there. I'm telling you, there's so many things. And again, you go back to my video on the porcupine, and I'll show you at least a half a dozen different things that they listened to on this knife that didn't make it into this knife. This is a much newer knife. Every time they come out with a new knife or even a new version of the same old knife, they are updating these things on these knives, man. It is impressive, and that's what you want to see. That's the kind of company you want to work with and buy from, right? So anyhow, great steel. The tip is out straight in the center line. It's almost full flat. I don't know. Do y'all have any idea why they wouldn't just go ahead and make this full flat? Why they have just that little bit of a bar across the top that they didn't want to grind out? Maybe there's a reason. I'm not aware of it. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, the behind the edge sliciness of this thing is incredibly thin and slicey as it is. Just a curious thing for me. Just wondered why about that. Very thick all the way out to the tip, so it maintains that full thickness until you get almost to the very tip of this knife. So this is a good hard use work knife. If you knew, all right, I'm gonna have to probably pry some staples out of some cardboard or something here and there when I go to work, and I want still a good quality knife that's solid and feels good in the hand, this is probably that knife. And again, that blade is not too thick that it won't be beautifully slicey. We're going to see when we get to our cut test. But the way it stays thick all the way out, that's all intentional. And that's what makes this such a really great work knife. The blade jimping is a little bit fine. I would have loved to see that a little bit better, a little deeper. It is grippy. I mean, I'll tell you, that is grippy as it is. So I'm not totally complaining. Would love to see it come out a little bit more. This may be another one of the things they listen to. We said make the jimping a little bit bigger, carry it out farther on the blade, and how about putting a little bit of jimping out at the tip of the blade? This is another example where new models get some of those upgrades of things that people are saying on these knives. That being said, it is fully functional. They do have this forward finger choil. It feels great in the hand all the way around like that. Minimal branding, good job. Blade centering wasn't perfect, but we can figure that out. The sharpening choil was excellent. Factory sharpening was a little bit short, as I mentioned, on the grind. That's probably like a 24 degree if I had to guess, but it's hard to say. When you get down to a very thin blade like this, it could be a 20, 22. It's not going to be less than a 20. I'm pretty sure about that, just given the height of how thin that line is. But that's going to make it tougher, right? It's already a tough steel. It's one of the reasons you like 14C is it's a very tough steel, very corrosion resistant if it doesn't, always hold the best edge of any knife. So I don't mind having a little bit of a higher angle. We're going to see here right now, as a matter of fact, this thing came slicey, right? So like right out of the box, this thing is as slicey as any knife that you're going to get from the factory. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm trying to tell you that was probably thought out as well in a conscious decision. Let's not make the edge too thin of an angle because that'll lessen its toughness. It'll make it more likely you're going to chip or roll that edge, even though this is very tough steel. Ergonomically, excellent. Very good fit in the hand. You can choke back and feel confident. If I have to push into some kind of hard or thick materials, that my fingers are well locked in. The grippiness of that G10, a little bit of jimping up here, feels very confident in the hand. When I start doing my cardboard cutting test, you better believe I'm going to be choked up right here as well. Slicing through that cardboard feels excellent in the hand, very well balanced. The balance is right behind the pivot, just like you would expect with this knife. Ergonomically all the way around, it's fantastically done. Nice, long, relatively thin, slicey blade. It's not the most fidgety knife ever because, it's a pretty stiff crossbar lock, which is what I want in my work knife, but I'm probably not going to sit at my desk all day and flip this knife. You can forward and reverse flip it, no big deal. You can see I haven't really been doing reverse flipping. Usually when I have a crossbar lock, I'm just doing thumb flipping. That's all. You can, of course, also use the lock itself as your opening and closing mechanism. I just need to get my timing down a little bit better because I'm doing a horrible job today, aren't I? Anyhow, there it is. You know, it's still new for me. Let's talk about some negatives because I've mentioned a few along the way. T6 screws, no real reason for that. Might as well do that. Hey, well, let's go the extra 1/4 inch with that pocket clip. Maybe there's a reason, I just don't get it. Probably enhance the jimping, you know, like you did on the porcupine, on that blade jimping all the way out to the tip. That would make this thing even better. They do have, again, that 𝗩𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗲 style blade. I didn't even look to see if the jimping is the same on that one or not. That one might have deep jimping. Other than that, man, it's really hard to find fault with this knife at this price. You're getting a beautiful, excellently designed and built quality work knife. You know, this is their new Rockstar. This is their version of the Pyrite. They're going to blow this thing up in every kind of blade steel and handle you can imagine. It's going to be all kinds. There are already all kinds of variations. There's like 18 different versions of this knife that you can buy. If I needed a good hard use work knife or semi-hard use, I mean, like not real hard use, but if I even worked in some kind of factory or shipping department where I had to cut boxes all day and cut through shipping tape and cut open packages, and I needed a knife that I felt confident was going to get me through that day, no problem. At the end of the day, I can just throw it on a strop a few times back and forth, and I am just as sharp, ready to go for the next day. I have ultimate confidence in this knife. This is the one I would want to put in my pocket. Feels great in the hand. You've got great positions all the way through. Very neutral, easy, pokey, stabby, cutty, slice, pinch grips. You know, you could even put this in a reverse grip and it'd be golden. So absolutely. This is, you know, somebody may call this, and I think someone did, a bug out killer. This is way more than a bug out killer. This is, to me, not even really the same category as bug out. This is not, first of all, an ultralight, you know, like the Pyrite would be more of a bug out killer because it's in that ultralight category. This is an outstandingly well-built EDC work knife with very few issues or problems. So absolutely, of course, I can recommend it. You know, there's a different place in the whole lineup. If I'm going out on date night or I'm working in a corporate office behind a desk and I don't want to have to worry about leaving my knife laying on the desk and somebody getting all freaked out, that's the knife I probably want to carry to that job. If I'm just looking for like my fun EDC, fidgety, you know, top liner lock, reverse flipping, you know, fun knife that looks cool, maybe this is the one. But if I'm going to a job or to a work, or if I know I'm going out for the day and I'm going to have to actually do some real cutting with my knife and it could potentially be a little bit more harder use type stuff, this is the model that I'm picking all day long. There's something for everybody, and y'all know there's already a bunch more knives and variations from Vosteed out there as well. So, of course, I recommend this. I recommend this wholeheartedly. And that's not because they sent me a knife for review. It's because they built a darn good knife for all the reasons we've been talking about. All right, that being said, if you would, please, down below here, as always, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Think about that. Hit that notification bell. All those send little signals to the Google, YouTubes that, hey, you should share these guys' videos. So that and a thumbs up would really make my day. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do y'all have any of these Vosteeds? Have you been carrying this thing for work or any kind of hard use? I would like to hear from y'all, especially all my regulars. You guys know who you are. You're always going to pipe up anyhow and share your 2 cents worth. Man, are y'all seeing the same thing I'm seeing? That Vosteed is just killing it these days. Let me know what you think in the comments. Love to hear from you always. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day. See ya.